Derek signed the papers on a Tuesday. By Friday, he had received 4 violation notices. Not because he'd done anything wrong, because Karen had been waiting for him. You see, in the Pinnacle Crest condominiums, one of the most prestigious addresses in the city, there was an unspoken rule that nobody told you at closing. Karen didn't just run the HOA. She owned the management company that the HOA paid $22,000 a month to. She set the fines. She collected the fines, and she decided who got fined. Derek had just bought Unit 412, a $680,000 corner unit with floor-to-ceiling windows and a city view that made him feel like he'd finally made it. Single father, 10 years of grinding. This was supposed to be his reward. Instead, it was Karen's newest revenue stream. The first fine, $250 for a welcome mat that was non-regulation beige. The second, $400 for receiving an Amazon package after 6 p.m. The third, $350 for wind chimes Karen claimed could be heard from the hallway. The fourth, and this one is where it gets sinister, $1,500 for unauthorized occupancy. His daughter had stayed the weekend. Derek laughed it off. He called the HOA office. A woman answered and said, "This is Pinnacle Crest Management Solutions. How can I help you?" Same company, same building, same Karen. That's when Derek realized he hadn't bought a condo. He'd walked straight into Karen's kingdom, and she had already decided he didn't belong there. Derek did what any reasonable person would do. He started asking questions. He knocked on neighbors' doors, introduced himself, and within a single weekend, discovered that every single resident in Pinnacle Crest wore the same expression: tired, defeated, defeated, and quietly terrified. An elderly couple on the second floor, the Nguyen's, had been fighting a $12,000 fine for 3 years over a potted plant on their balcony. A young professional named Simone on the seventh floor hadn't used her parking spot in 8 months because Karen had temporarily reassigned it to a board member's visiting relative and charged Simone a $200 monthly vacancy maintenance fee for the empty space. A retired veteran named Roland on the fifth floor had received a lien notice on his unit for fines he swore he never received. Fines that had quietly compounded with interest at 18% annually, buried in the CC&Rs on page 47 in font so small you needed a magnifying glass to read it. Derek pulled out his own purchase documents that night and started reading. What he found made his stomach drop. Pinnacle Crest Management Solutions, the company Karen owned, had a contract with the HOA board that auto-renewed every year, was completely immune from resident votes, and included a clause that gave the management company the legal right to place liens on units for unpaid fines before they even went to collections. The board that signed this contract? 3 members. Karen's husband, her college roommate, and a man named Phil, who, according to Roland, had never once attended a meeting in person and whose signature appeared on every single document like clockwork. Derek now understood this wasn't mismanagement. This was an organized, deliberate, legally constructed trap, and he was standing right in the middle of it with $680,000 of his life savings locked inside a unit he was beginning to realize he might never truly own. If this story is opening your eyes, smash that like button, share this video so your family and friends don't make the same mistake, and subscribe so you never miss these eye-openers. And drop a comment below. Where are you watching this from? Derek wasn't a lawyer, but he was something potentially more dangerous in this situation. He was a forensic accountant. For 10 years, he had been paid by corporations to find exactly what people like Karen tried to hide. And at 11:47 p.m. on a Wednesday night, sitting on his living room floor, surrounded by HOA documents, bank statements he had formally requested under state law, and 3 empty coffee cups, he found the first thread and he pulled it. Pinnacle Crest Management Solutions had been billing the HOA $22,000 every single month. But when Derek cross-referenced the actual services rendered against the itemized invoices, he discovered that $9,400 of that monthly fee was categorized under a single line item called administrative overhead facilitation, a term so vague it legally meant absolutely nothing. He dug deeper. The HOA's reserve fund, which was supposed to hold $380,000 for building repairs and emergencies, according to the budget documents provided to every buyer at closing, actually held $47,000. The rest had been steadily drained over 6 years through a series of vendor payments, all to companies Derek traced back to either Karen directly or members of her immediate family. The pool renovation that cost residents a $1,200 special assessment 2 years ago, the contractor was Karen's brother-in-law operating under an LLC, formed 11 days before he won the bid. The landscaping contract renewed every year at a 15% increase, another LLC, another family member, another carefully constructed wall of paperwork designed to look legitimate just long enough to survive a casual inspection. But Derek wasn't doing a casual inspection. He was doing the kind of inspection that ends careers and starts criminal investigations. And when he finally found the document that connected everything, a consulting agreement signed between the HOA and Karen personally, separate from her management company contract, paying her an additional $3,800 a month for strategic community oversight, approved only by Phil's rubber stamp signature, Derek sat back, looked at the ceiling of his $680,000 apartment, and smiled for the first time since he moved in. Karen hadn't just been stealing from the residents of Pinnacle Crest. She had been stealing in a way she believed was completely untouchable. She was about to find out what happens when the wrong person moves into Unit 412. Derek didn't post on social media. He didn't confront Karen in the lobby. He didn't slip angry notes under her office door. He did something far more devastating. He got quietly, methodically, and legally lethal. He spent 6 weeks building a file so airtight that when he finally walked into the state attorney general's office on a Monday morning with a 47-page documented report, 2 external forensic reviews he had personally funded, and a USB drive containing 6 years of financial records he had obtained through every legal channel available to him as a unit owner, the investigator sitting across from him stopped him on page 11, picked up her phone, and called someone else into the room. Derek also filed a complaint with the state's Division of Condominiums, contacted the Department of Business and Professional Regulation, forwarded his findings to 3 investigative journalists, and quietly organized every single resident of Pinnacle Crest into a unified legal coalition, 34 unit owners, including the Gwens, Simone, and Roland, all of whom had been sitting on their own horror stories for years, just waiting for someone brave enough to go first. The state investigation launched within 30 days. Karen's management contract was suspended within 45. By day 60, Pinnacle Crest Management Solutions had been served with a civil lawsuit representing all 34 residents with combined damages exceeding $2.1 million. Phil, it turned out, had been signed documents without reading them for 4 years in exchange for free monthly HOA dues. He cooperated immediately and completely. Karen's husband, the attorney who had helped structure the entire scheme, surrendered his law license before the Bar Association could take it. The reserve fund fraud alone carried criminal exposure, and on a Thursday morning that Derek learned about through a text from Roland that simply read, "Turn on the news," Karen was walked out of the Pinnacle Crest management office in front of every resident she had terrorized, humiliated, and financially drained for the better part of a decade. Derek watched from the lobby. He didn't cheer. He didn't smirk. He simply stood there holding a coffee cup next to Roland and the Wins and Simone and 30 other neighbors who had become something Karen never anticipated and never prepared for: a community. The $680,000 Derek spent on Unit 412 had bought him a floor-to-ceiling city view. Yes, but it had also accidentally bought him a front row seat to the most important lesson in real estate that nobody teaches you at closing. The most dangerous thing you can ever do before buying a home is fail to read every single document, because somewhere, buried in the fine print of a contract you didn't check, on page 47 in a font you can barely read, someone like Karen is already counting your money as hers. If this story hit different, smash that like button. Share this video with every person you know who owns or is thinking about buying a home, and subscribe because we are just getting started with these stories. Drop a comment below. Where in the world are you watching this from? We read every single one.